Hello, and welcome back to the God the Artist podcast. I'm your host, Morgan McCarver, and today we have special guest Paul Skidmore. Paul, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, Paul, when did you first discover that you were a creative person?
I don't ever remember not doing creative things. My mom's a pretty creative person, and she always instilled that in both me and my older brother. And so he was always doing creative stuff. He's like 7.5 years older than me. So he was always doing really cool things that I wasn't old enough to do yet. So I always wanted to do whatever he was doing and learn whatever he was learning. And mom was always having me do creative things. I remember she had me enter the local storytelling contest at our local library when I was like 5. And I think I won that year. I think I was the only person in my age group. So I think that's probably why. Um, but it was, it was a little corny joke or something that she taught me to tell. But very early on, I was fascinated with storytelling and any kind of art or drawing. I loved to do that. And, I was born in 1978. So about the time that I'm a kid and sort of trying to figure out my personality and stuff, the popular movies are Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, Goonies, Superman. I mean, what a fun time to grow up. And I was very interested in all of those movies just as enjoyment as a kid. And as I got older, I realized, people make these, and there's a lot of cool things behind the scenes. I was into stuntmen for a while. I thought that was really cool, and then I thought the visual effects stuff was really neat. And then when I was in high school, Jurassic Park came out, and I was like, I have a computer, maybe I can do this. And so a friend of mine who graduated a few years ahead of me was in the architecture program. He brought over like 45 floppy disks one day, and at the end I had like a 3D modeling program, so I was learning how to do that in my bedroom at home in high school when I was supposed to be doing homework. So I've always just been interested in creative things, expressing myself creatively, communicating creatively, storytelling, and also like emerging technology stuff. Any new thing that's out there, I want to learn how to do it, and not just to have fun with it, but like how can I now use this tool, and as part of my creative talent stack? How can I use this to tell stories, to entertain people, to make people think, that sort of thing. So it's just always been a key component of my life. And along with that, mom has always told my brother and I, do what you love and the money will come. And so we've tried to make responsible decisions also along the way, but that really gave us a lot of support and freedom that, a lot of my friends in film school, their families did not support them in what they were doing or what they were learning or what they wanted to do. And so to have that support from my family has just been a huge blessing. And so, yeah, every day I'm exploring something in some kind of creative way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. Like having your parents support you, it makes all the difference in the world, I think. I, for one, shy away from the new technology. So tell us a little bit more about how you jumped on some of these new technological programs and how they helped you out.
Yeah. Well, um, so I guess, I got my first computer. Well, let's back up from that. So when I was, I guess, about 13, I saw the commercial on TV for Prodigy Online. This was before America Online or CompuServe, which were sort of like the two big ones, but Prodigy was the first one, and the first big one anyway. And I remember seeing a commercial for it, and I was like, Dad, we got to have that. And he's like, what do you need that for? You're 13. You don't even know how to do anything. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, no, no, we need this. He's like, why? What does it do? I was like, well, it has like the news and weather and stocks and stuff. He's like, well, you don't have stocks. You can look out the window and you don't care about the news. Like we have the newspaper. And I knew he was right. I also knew I was right. I was like, no, this is the thing. I can tell by looking at it. That's the thing. I don't think I was just falling for the salesmanship of the commercial. I just looked at that and I was like, yes, that is it. And so eventually my parents got me my first computer in 1992. I was a freshman in high school, and I was one of the few people and my peers that had a computer. A couple of my friends from church had already had one, so they taught me a few things. And it was not a great computer, which was a huge blessing because I started to learn why it was terrible and what I needed to do on the next one, and got into tinkering and things, and ended up building several of my own computers. Um, and then after film school, everything that I learned, like editing wise, everything was all Mac based. And Macs in the '90s were not, everything was PC in the '90s, Windows, and I finally got an iPod, and then I got a MacBook Pro so I could edit, and then now I'm like all Apple all the way, really all my Apple stuff. And I really tried to stay on top of new things. I mentioned a minute ago, like when Jurassic Park came out, learning 3D modeling, when, a lot of people that I went to high school with, we're talking again, I graduated in '96. So in the early '90s, hardly anybody in my high school even knew how to film a video or edit it, and I was doing 3D graphics in my, in my bedroom on my home computer. It was slow. It was, I was not very good, but it taught me to think about things three-dimensionally. It taught me to think about camera placement and really taught me to think about lighting, which is not something that I had any education on. There wasn't anybody teaching me anything about filmmaking in Cleveland, Tennessee, this little town that I grew up in. So I was just kind of learning things on my own and picking up what I could in little HBO specials, behind the scenes, Return of the Jedi or Terminator 2 or whatever new technologies and things that were coming out. And so then I went to regular university for a couple of years and then realized, no, I really do want to make movies. I just don't know how to do it. I need to go to like a trade school. And so I went to film school in North Carolina, North Carolina School of the Arts. And there I learned, the process and the technologies and everything for making films. We were one of the first schools in the country to use Final Cut Pro, which nobody had ever heard of at the time. We were using version 1 and became basically the industry standard, at least there for a while. And so even there, I was taking classes on 3D animation and a little bit on game design. I didn't do much with video games, but that was kind of part of the class. I learned how to do visual effects and project management and use project management software. And I was using Microsoft Project at 21, 22. It's the stuff that's sort of meant for like business guys. I was using it in film school to manage our projects. And any technological thing I saw, like being able to send people emails from your calendar, I just thought that was cool that we could connect and things could be automatic in that way. Of course, none of it worked in the '90s and the 2000s. But now, as we're coming into the age of like, all this machine learning and AI powered stuff, it's finally starting to do some of the things that I've always wanted my computer to do since I had it at 14. I had to wait 30 years. But I have a system now. I'm using some of the emerging AI stuff and trying to figure out how to use it responsibly and how to use it as a tool. And I don't let it do the fun things. I like to write. I don't really want it to do that. But if it can help me manage some things or think through some things or automate some things, I'm all for that. And so I try to stay on the front end of that because I think AI especially is going to disrupt the whole world probably more than the internet itself did. And so I just want to be on the positive end of that and on the front end of that if I can be. But I'm always just fascinated. I like to tinker, but I think that there's a joy of discovery, and there's a little bit of sort of self-satisfaction when you build something yourself. I remember the first time I built my own computer. I was really pleased that was something that I could do. And even if you never really do that particular thing again, it builds a skill. It builds a problem-solving ability that you take into other areas and just sort of keeps increasing that the talent stack. And I like to keep my talent stack high and unique so that the work that I do is valuable for other people.
I love that, and not letting AI take all the fun talent away, but using it to really work for you, which I guess is the whole design of AI, but I can see where it's going to get out of hand too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I try to be as positive as I can about it. It's also difficult to see how probably it won't kill us all in the end. So I just try to use it while I can and be optimistic about it and hope that we can stay on the front of it and still enjoy life. You know, it's such a common topic now, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it's interesting because the things that it is sort of unintentionally harming, I think are going to cause us to return to some really good things. So when you can no longer really trust the video that you're looking at on social media, I think eventually people are going to get tired of looking at that because you don't really want to look at fake stuff. You don't want to be lied to all day if you know you're being lied to, right? And so at some point, when you can't trust the stuff that you're looking at from far away, the only thing you can really trust is what's right around you. And I think we're already seeing people returning to homeschooling and to, off the grid type things, growing their own food in their backyard. Um, I'm very close to my next door neighbors, and that's something that has always been the case in the different towns and cities that I've lived in. And so I think it's, when you don't trust anything, then trust becomes the highest currency. And at some point, you can sort of only trust what you can see and touch, sort of right near you. And so I've been saying that I think our lives will kind of look like the Jetsons in terms of like the technology, but our actual the important parts of our life will look more like Little House on the Prairie. It's sort of very close and local, and we'll value the important things that you can't recreate with the technology that can't be taken away through some system. So at least I'm optimistic. I'm hoping that's what'll happen. That's the path that I'm trying to go down. I think we have to be intentional about it, probably. So I'm trying to do that. But
Yeah, very well said. So going back to you and your work, you have a short story that, did the short story inspire the movie, or did you have the movie idea first and then kind of write the short story?
no, I wrote the short story first, not really thinking that it would be a movie at all. Now, my background is filmmaking. I do a lot of writing as a filmmaker, um, and I started writing the short stories honestly just because they're cheaper than making a movie because you can do it by yourself, at the donut shop at 2 a.m. and you don't have to pay a crew and all that stuff. Um, but so the very first short story I wrote was called Kindling, and it's actually something I did want to make as a short film for a long time, but I just felt like what would be the point of all the effort? What do you do with a short film? You can't sell it, you can't show it anywhere. I mean, you can take it to festivals or something, but for what purpose? What's the end game there? And I never really saw anything that was worth it to make it as a film. So it just sort of set in the back of my head for, I don't know, 10 years or more. And I decided to do it as a short story, in part because I wanted to learn publishing things to Amazon, to Apple, because eventually I want to do my movies that way, um, direct to customer if I can. And so, what's the process here? How do you submit things? Who's allowed to submit things? What cut do they get? How do I advertise this? They're not going to advertise for me. So how do I do that part? And I just kind of wanted to learn with something that was sort of low stakes. But there was a really good response to that first short story. It was just an ebook. And a lot of people were like, I want a paperback. I don't read ebooks. I want to feel the book. I want to smell the ink or whatever. And so I started thinking, well, what are some other short stories, little pieces of stories that I've had in my mind that I can like whip out and make like a little anthology and make a paperback? Um, and so I wrote two more, The Darkness Rolled Over Her and Ciao Bella. And then I started another one called God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, which ended up being a long story and became a novel because I crossed over that 40,000 word mark. Um, and in the time that it took me to sort of work on these, it became much more feasible to release paperbacks of the individual stories. So I did that, and people were happy. But when I got done with The Darkness Rolled Over Her, it's about 72 pages on the paperback, and I still wrote it kind of like a screenplay because that's just what I'm seeing in my mind. I'm just sort of writing down what I'm seeing, and so it sort of reads like you're watching a movie. And I got done with it and I thought, it's present day. It's just a handful of characters. There's no weird, robots or exploding helicopters or anything like that. For my freelance work, I have a camera, I have lenses, I've got microphones, I've got lights. Like, I think we can make a movie out of this. And didn't really have any money. I did raise a little bit of money to pay for wardrobe and food and gas and a couple of rentals and things like that. But we had a volunteer cast and crew. Our crew most days was three people, including me, which is the smallest crew I think I've ever worked on. I think even our first year of film projects at school were like five people, just the little class projects. So we made the whole thing out of the back of my Subaru Outback, you know, and it was just sort of a labor of love for those of us that worked on it. And really looking forward to finishing it. We're in the final stages of post production now. We're finishing up a couple of visual effects things that are just kind of taking some time, but they're looking really good. So the film will be done soon, but it wasn't until I finished the book that I realized it could be a film. And also there was a good response to the book too. The Darkness Rolled Over Her deals with the main character, you read in the opening page of the book that she's decided to take her own life. And that's a decision she's already made before the book begins. And so she has this one last trip planned, which is a fly fishing retreat that she goes on with some friends, and she gets paired up with this old fly fisherman named Roy. Our main character's name is Gwen. So Gwen and Roy spend the day together fly fishing, and Roy, their conversation, he's this sort of chummy old mountain man, and they kind of build this little friendship, which is surprising to her because she's not really planning on having new experiences at this point. And it starts to challenge this decision that she's made a little bit. And there's another younger woman on the trip with her whose name is Sam. And she sees a lot of herself in Sam and doesn't want Sam to end up where she is, but doesn't know what to do about that. And so some of the conversation becomes about that as well. And the story really is about human connection and the importance of being able to talk to someone. And we filmed this right as the pandemic, not right as it started, but there was sort of that first in the early fall of 2020 when we thought, okay, we think maybe this is over. And so we filmed all this. It was mostly outside and everything. And, um, as the pandemic, a lot of things with that sort of wore on and on, we started seeing this surge in this particular topic. Just sort of skyrocketing percentages, particularly that year, of people that just really struggled to find a purpose in their life, really, I think is what a lot of times it ultimately boils down to. And I knew then that this wasn't just a little short story, that I would write because my dad's a fly fisherman and I thought it would be a neat story, but it really took on a life of its own. And, we got a lot of interest in it. And it was at that point that I thought, not only can we make this as a movie, but maybe we should make this into a movie.
So what would you say your inspiration for the story ultimately was? Was it through the pandemic experience?
No, that actually just kind of coincided with it. There've been a lot of things with this film and this story. When I say it took on a life of its own, and we're speaking here as believers, right? So I think that so many times God calls us to do something and does not give us the full picture up front, probably because we wouldn't do it if we if we. I mean, if I knew this was going to be 6 years long, I mean, we filmed the whole September. No, it was like August 16th, I think. August 16th. Um, I said to my friend Noah, I think we can make a movie out of this. That was the first time we really talked about it. And like September 16th was our first day of production. It's like 1 month. We went from, I think maybe we could make a movie out of this to we're making a feature film. We'd raised money, I'd bought wardrobe, we'd cast the thing. I mean, everything happened in this very short span of time. And then we filmed over about a month and a half. We filmed for 18 days total, over a month and a half. Got the whole thing filmed. I got most of it edited by March. Like the picture, in a film, you edit the picture first, and then you go back and you do the sound and the music and the effects after the picture is done, after the video part is done. And so I had the picture pretty close to done by March, enough to know, okay, well, we need to go back and reshoot some things. And so we shot some new stuff for the beginning, some underwater scenes, which are really cool, and a couple of little pickup shots. And then it was like a year or something before I had picture lock. And then, there was just freelance stuff that came in, and there was, as the different pandemic things and things in the world wore on, it took a toll on me too, and it's just like sometimes just struggling to get up and find the will to sit down and push buttons and get things done. And then I had to do the sound edit, which I knew conceptually how to do, but I'd never used the software before. So I'm like learning the software from scratch and trying to figure all that out. I found some good tutorials, but none of them were exactly about what I was doing. So I had to kind of like piece together different information and sort of had to make up what I was doing on my own. I had to learn how to do the color correction software. I had to learn how to round trip stuff out of Final Cut and into these different other softwares and then back so that it all stayed lined up and everything. And it just took years. And then we recorded our own Foley. So Foley is like footsteps and different things that you record, sound effects that you record as you watch the edit go by. Whereas, as opposed to what we call hard effects, which is like on an album where you just pull and drop it into your time. And so we set up a big Foley studio at Noah's house, and I mean they're walking through the river, so it's not just doing footsteps, but we had to set up a pool and like walk through the pool and get like footsteps in the water and stuff. It was kind of crazy, and his place wasn't super soundproof, so there was only like certain times of day we could record, and that took like a whole year to do. And it's just gone on and on. These effects have just taken a long time because we only have so much time during the week that we can work on it. So so anyway, if I'd known that it was going to take 6 years to do it, I just would have been like, I don't think this is worth. I don't know if this is worth the undertaking, you know. Um, but at the same time, um, there are some scenes that we recorded in the river. The spot that we were able to finally get for the river is literally right under an overpass that has constant traffic on it. They're supposed to be out in the middle of the woods, way out in the middle of nowhere. And there's like semis going by and everything. And just like, we're going to have to re-record all this dialogue. And the old guy that plays Roy, he's hilarious and he's a great guy, but he's kind of grumpy. And I was like, he's going to hate coming in and having to re-record this dialogue. You know, I was just so worried about it. And then by the time I finally got to the audio edit, just like a couple of months prior, Apple had released a plugin that was machine learning powered that basically takes out everything but voice and does it in a way that no other noise reduction filter had done before. It sounds really good. And so I didn't have to re-record any of Roy's dialogue. I didn't have to re-record almost any of that stuff that we recorded that under that overpass that day. And so, and even now as we're finishing, there are some of the 3D stuff that we're doing, some of the machine learning stuff in my software for taking out power lines or cars in the background or whatever, all that stuff. There's just a lot of things that we're able to do now that literally were not technologically possible 3 years ago. And so if we had finished when I wanted, I don't know what it would have looked like because we wouldn't have been able to, I don't know how we would have finished it anyway, you know? So anyway, all that to say, I had no idea when I sat down to write the story in, I guess it was mid 2018. I had no idea that the next 8 years of my life were going to be defined by this story. I had no idea it was going to be a film. And I still really don't have any idea what's going to happen with it because, I've done some podcasts and I've done a little marketing on it. I don't want to say too much about it until it's done because I don't know at this point. I don't know when it's going to be done. So, there's not really there's not an audience of thousands waiting to see it, and so I'm really kind of going on trust, not trust in my talent. I think I have some, but not trust in the material, although I think the material's good. But I just feel like this was handed to me more than it was something that I've made. You know what I mean? And I guess it's like, the Bible uses a lot of agriculture analogies. And I think one beautiful thing about that is, you can make a bookcase, you can build a computer, whatever, but like no one says, hey, I made this tree. Anybody that does stuff with plants is not like, oh yeah, I made this orchid. No, nobody says that because you didn't. And you can, my dad, his dad was a farmer, and we still have a farm, and some of the farm guys, they're like, you can do everything right, but it's on the sun and the wind and the rain, and even if you do everything right, you can still lose everything. Some bug can come along or whatever, and so with the agricultural stuff, there's nothing like I did this. It's hard to have any pride in it, even if you're trying to, and so I really feel like this process, one way I could look at it, the way of the world, I could look at this and go, hey, I've done every major role on this thing, and I should have a lot to say about this. But honestly, I just look at it and go, most of the time I have not known what I'm doing. I do not, I got into stuff. I got in way over my head, probably without realizing it. And yet everything kept going. And I even made a video right at the beginning because everything came together so quickly at the beginning. I made a video that I can go back and watch for myself, which was basically saying, remember how quickly this all came together in case it's not like this after this. I had no idea what it was going to be like after this. But sure enough, it's taken 5, we're on year 6 now. after filming it. And so to see everything come together in like 2 months and then like 6 years to finish it. But I keep going back to that thought that I had at that time, like, you're supposed to do this. I don't know where it'll take you or what the point of it is or where it's going to get you or how it's going to turn out. But, how I see it turning out is I really feel like, um, I really do believe someone who was going to leave us will stay because they saw this film or read the book or had a friend that did who intervened. And that's my hope. That's my prayer for it. But at this point, I kind of have to look at every day like, okay, I got to be faithful with what's left. I got to finish well and then sort of let God take care of the rest. And so for me, it's very much like tending a plant really than building something. So that's my aim now is to just kind of tend it as well as I can.
I think a lot of times I am trying to reach some goal and I forget like the Lord has given me that goal, but now I have to
See
steward that
lots of
goal.
clouds and can expect a
And
high
so
of
I completely
67 degrees
understand what you're
Fahrenheit and a low of 47
But
degrees.
I guess my next question would be, oh, I should say I did watch your trailer. Is that the
Hmm.
appropriate term or your commercial, the plug for
Yeah,
the
the
movie?
trailer. Yeah.
It was amazing. It looks like
Thank you.
real movie
Yeah.
production. You had me fooled with the team of three people, and but I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to film. But what would you say is the hardest part of all of this so far? Also, it sounds like you could write a book about this, which also would help people who are trying to make their own films. But overall, what is the hardest part about all of this?
Um, well, the hardest part is a little ironic. So in the story of the film, they're fly fishing, and I don't know if have you ever been fly fishing.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so normal fishing, you're in a boat, you're on the shore, you're casting something out, you're waiting to see if it gets it. Maybe you reel it back in and cast it back out again. And I remember as a kid, Dad would open up a can of worms and have me sit on a big rock. I'd sit there for like 3 hours, bored out of my mind, nothing, not catching anything. Maybe he just did that to get me out of his way. I don't know. But with fly fishing, when I go fly fishing with my dad now as an adult, he is very fast. Even with the other guys that he goes, he's actually up at Tellico right now fly fishing, and even with these other guys that he goes up with, they get irritated with him because he wants to move on because he's been going up there since he was probably 10 or something, and he's 80 now, so he's been going up there 70 years. Like he knows these places like the back of his hand. He knows where all the little good spots are, and he'll pull up at some place looks like a drainage ditch, and people are like, "I'm not fishing in that." He's like, "Okay," so he'll go over there and he'll just drop it in. He'll just be pulling fish out of there, and but he'll see these spots and he'll toss his fly out there, and the thing with the fly is it floats on the water, it doesn't sink. So the fly, or maybe sometimes some of them just sink just a little bit below the water, but basically they're moving with the water, so they're coming back at you as soon as you throw them in. They're coming back at you, so you're reeling in as soon as you throw it out. And so he'll cast it a couple of times, and if nothing bites, then he moves on. And that's sort of where the sort of the parable within the story came from for me was, you know, here with fly fishing, as I kind of wanted to write a story about fly fishing, and Roy is not based on my dad, but sort of the whole thing's kind of inspired by my dad and fly fishing. And I just thought, okay, here they are constantly walking upstream, and they have to keep moving, and that's a refrain in the book. It's a refrain in the film. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And I thought so that's when I realized I need a character who's decided to stop moving, and so this is where Gwen's story starts to come from. And so that's sort of the refrain, and that's in some of our merch and things. I don't think it's on this shirt, no, but so this is Lucy from the story, and we have mugs with this and say keep moving under it. And you asked what the hardest part of the process was, and like making this film, and the hardest part for me has been to keep moving, has been to like every day go, you got to move this thing forward today. You got to push something down the line. You got to I'm real good at big picture, and I'm real good at taking one little task that you've given me and then like zeroing in on that. And I get kind of muddled in the middle, which by the way, this is where some of these AI things have really come to help me in the last couple of months. But every day I've got to get up and go, okay, I got to move at least one thing forward on this, or this is never going to get done. One of the first things they taught us in film school is every movie wants to die. So if you don't keep it on life support, it'll die because nobody else cares, you know? And, my friends want to see this film done. My parents want to see this film done. Noah wants to see this film done. The actors definitely want to see it done. They're like, where is it? Um, but there's not anybody that cares about it more than me, Noah cares about it a lot also, but like, if there's somebody that's going to be the driving force behind getting this thing done, it's got to be me. I'm the one. It was put in my hands, and so that for me, honestly, has just been the toughest part. Has been every day to keep moving with it, to get one more thing done, to get one more thing down the road, and especially after all this time, because it's I don't know how you are as an artist and creative, but like, not that there's any financial incentive at all. I don't expect that this will. I would love for this to make a ton of money somehow, but money's never really been an incentive for me. Not having it is a disincentive, you know. But like I've never thought, oh, I'm going to write this story because it'll sell a bunch of copies and make a bunch of money. That's never been a driving factor. Obviously, I want to pay for my time and I pay my bills and stuff. But like in my creative endeavors, it's been, I hope this encourages people. I hope this changes people's thinking. I hope this gives people a new perspective. I hope this brings beauty or delight or laughter or whatever, into people's life. And that's the thing that motivates me is more purpose driven stuff, more sort of mission driven things. And so, waking up every morning and trying to find that incentive and connect it to the software thing that I've got to do, to move things sometimes is difficult for me. Cause sometimes my mind is already like getting onto the next thing, I'm already wanting to create the next thing or write the next thing or my novel, I'd like to do it as a film. I'm already thinking about adapting that. It's like, oh, slow down. You got to finish this first. So that's the hard part for me.
Well, you're doing a great job. I want to encourage you with your
Thank you.
merchandise, your marketing. Like I said, the trailer is legit. It looks amazing. I am definitely looking forward to seeing the movie. And I do think it is hard. And when it starts going well, and it's from the Lord, someone told me once, like, well, that's when you're supposed to expect the spiritual warfare. Not that like everything that goes wrong is a battle from the enemy, but I do think that plays a huge part in our progress moving forward. And after I learned that or realized that, it made it easier and harder. Like, oh, okay, well, if the enemy thinks this is dangerous, because it's giving God so much glory, then yeah, let's do it. But also, why is it so hard,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, for me anyway, sometimes is it's difficult to discern. Like I said, there were some things that like, why is this taking so long? Have I dropped the ball? Is this some kind of punishment for personal things that I've done? Or is this, wait, it's not time yet. Wait, you need this plugin. It hasn't been invented yet. You gotta hold on. Wait, you're gonna need this AI stuff. It hasn't even been invented yet. Just gotta wait. Wait, the people that I want to see this aren't ready to see it yet, but they will be in 2027 or 2020. You know what I mean? So it's like, for sometimes I have trouble discerning like what's the holdup here? Is it me? Is it a spiritual warfare thing, or is it God saying that the timing's not right? And I don't always know that we necessarily need to know that answer in the moment. I think sometimes it's for looking back on maybe. But yeah, so I think that's I think that's why the church world we use the word stewardship. But we're given this thing, and our responsibility is to water it, is to feed it, is to tend it, is to weed it. And our responsibility is not the increase. Our responsibility is not the finish. Our responsibility um, is not how the audience responds to it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I spend 6 years of my life on this movie and put it out, and 200 people watch it, go, "Oh, that was cute," like that's gonna be pretty devastating, you know, because I got investors I'd like to pay back. I'd like to make some money off this that is worth the last 6 years of my life. I want to pay Noah. I want to pay Noah $7 million. You know, I want to pay him so much money for everything that he's given on this film. But it's like that's not up to me. You know, what's up to me is to do the best with what's been put in my hand, and I don't always do that, and so I could spend time, you know, I guess trying to discern all this stuff that may be indiscernible, at least for now, when really I should probably be spending that time and effort on just on daily bread, you know. What is my work for today? What is the one thing that I need to accomplish today? What's the work for today, you know?
I think that's one of the hardest things in just life in general. But what is the next thing moving forward for someone who doesn't know a whole lot about this field? How would you get your movie out in front of the public?
Sure. Well, you know, after film school, a lot of my friends went to Los Angeles. We took a trip out there for a week to show our senior film. The senior film that I worked on did very well. A lot of people were interested in talking to our team and talking to us about it. I'm confident had I moved out there, I could have gotten an assistant job of some kind right away. Wouldn't have paid very much, but I would have had a lot of friends that were also getting into the industry that were very talented. Some people that had graduated a few years ahead of us that could sort of bring us along into different things. Um, just I didn't spiritually. Film school was very difficult for me. I did not have a lot of friends that were um, of the same mindset that I was. I had two in particular, and both of them I think left at the end of second year. And so I almost left at the end of second year because I just felt kind of beat up. And I thought, I know enough. I can go back and hammer it out the rest, you know. And maybe I could have, but I'm glad that I stayed and learned what I learned. And I finished better than end of year 4 was definitely way better than end of year 2. Um, but I left there and I'd done school in Memphis for 2 years before that and had been involved at the Christian Student Center there. And so I moved back to Memphis because I liked Memphis at the time and had friends there. And that particular ministry had sort of gone through an overhaul. And so I didn't really know anybody there. I was sort of coming in as an unknown. And I just found myself, you know, in film school, I was the guy who didn't fit in because he was a Christian guy with all these artist people. And then now I come back to like my Christian friends and I don't really fit in because I'm the weird art kid. And, you know, I think really from that point on, I've just felt like a man without a country in a lot of ways. And I'll find people along the way that like we want to work on stuff together or whatever. But I spent a lot of time just sort of alone and working alone, which is that also is difficult. I'm really thankful for the help of Noah, and in previous projects, my friend William, that was my editor, and so I've had good friendships and partnerships along the way. But I do spend a lot of time, you know, working alone. But anyway, at the end of film school, I just decided I don't really want to go to LA. I don't want to do things the Hollywood way. I know the kinds of stories I want to tell. I don't really want to make like Christian movies, but I am a Christian and I want to make movies, and they're going to be compatible with my worldview, not somebody else's. And I'd been through enough to know that if there's anybody sort of hierarchy over you, especially if they control the purse strings, that is their project. It's not yours. And so if you have your great script and somebody else funds it so that you can make it, they get to decide what is in it, you know, or they get to decide how it's cut. They get to, you know, and I don't know, something in me was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play that game. So I graduated film school in 2002. In 2002, deciding to come back to Tennessee and make my own films and distribute them myself and everything, that was a dumb idea. You know, it was like sort of totally dumb. At that time, like if you wanted a cinema camera, you know, you'd have to rent one for $5,000 a week, you know, or whatever. Or you'd have to buy, if you wanted to buy something comparable, you're talking about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, which obviously I didn't have any of that kind of money. But now, like, we the camera that we shot this movie on that you said looks like a real movie, you know, the body of that camera was like $2,000. Um, I got it as part of my freelance. My whole lens kit is like less than $3,000. My whole camera system is under $10,000 with all the bells and whistles and everything. And so you really can, shoot a movie out of the back of a station wagon now, which you couldn't do in 2002 very well, but like you can do that now, kind of. Um, and also the other technology has come a long way as well. I mean, here we are, we're both in the US, but like I could be in Australia and we could still be doing this. I mean, we're getting live video from people on the other side of the moon, just a week or two ago. So we're in a different place technology wise than we've ever been. And you can go direct to customers with social media, and the way everything is kind of becoming decentralized, sort of. You can really go direct to people. You know, you can also, I don't think this is the way that I'm going to go, but like if you get a big enough audience, you can, things that normally you would have to sort of sell for 30 million, $50 million, whatever, you can give away because you're going to get that back in, YouTube premium subscriptions or ad revenue or whatever, Hulu licensing fees or whatever. And, so being able to go direct to customer now, I mean, I've got a little mini theater on my Parabolas website where people can watch some old shorts and stuff now and pay money. And there's nobody in between me and my customer, except for Stripe, taking the payment or whatever. So other than a couple of percent on the transaction, Amazon's not taking 30% of that. Apple's not taking 30% of that. Even my writing on my Substack, if you're a paid subscriber on Substack, they only take 10% of whatever. So it's just a different world now than it was 25 years ago when I graduated, where now it's like not only can you do it now, that's the way to do it. The people who are really doing things big now, that's the way they're doing it. One of the most popular horror films of the most recent months was done by a YouTuber that kept taking this film to different studios, and they kept turning him down, and he just made it himself. And he had like 38 million followers on YouTube. So the whole thing was like a huge smash success. And of course, a lot of the studio execs keep scratching their head. They don't understand what's going on. And it's like any other big, massive technology change. A lot of people aren't ready for it. Some people will embrace it and some people won't. But, so at this point, if it doesn't happen, either I failed or God just doesn't want me to do it, because the technology and the systems and everything are no longer standing in the way. It's kind of mine to lose at this point. So anyway, so that's sort of how I'm looking at it. So the actual mechanism, what I'm hoping to do is essentially publish it direct for sale, probably on my own site to start with, and just draw people there. If I've got to do my own marketing to draw them, why would I draw them to Apple or Amazon where I'm going to lose 30, 40%? Might as well just draw them to my site. That's another thing, is people are much more willing to put their payment information into different places, especially when you have payment things like PayPal and Stripe and Square, things that people trust, And so to be able to take payments and show a movie on my own site, that's a totally viable option now, where even 5-10 years ago, I don't know that it was. So as much as I would love to have made a feature film at 24, to do it the way I've always wanted to do it, probably had to wait till I was 47. So anyway,
God provided that technology, and it sounds like you're getting exactly what you want. You are able to complete your vision to the best of your ability, which I think, like you said, is so powerful, to have that ownership over your artistry. That is amazing, and I can't wait to see the video. I think that'll be just such a good video. But we can read the short story already, and I know we're running close to time. So how about you give us the final word about where we can read your short story and how we can get connected with you?
of course. So once again, the short story is called "The Darkness Rolled Over Her," and it deals with someone who's decided to take her own life. And it's got those three characters: Gwen, our main character; Roy, the fly fisherman that she gets paired up with; and Sam, the younger woman that she wishes that she could somehow help. And after the short story came out, I was speaking with a friend, and it was more of an acquaintance, really, but we ran into each other in the hallway. Hey, I read your book. Oh, great. What'd you think? And all of a sudden, she's telling me sort of personal things about uh, the topics, and I found myself reciprocating and saying things that I normally wouldn't say to an acquaintance or a stranger, but we both knew it was safe. She knew it was safe to talk to me because I'd written it in the book, so she knew I understood. And then I knew the same because she had done that with me. And so we started sort of sharing back and forth, which honestly is kind of what happens in the story, right? And so after that interaction, I thought, how do I get everybody to do that? Like, I don't even care if they read the book, if I can get them to do that. And so that's when we came up with 5 coffees and a book. And it's a little 5-week mini book club based around The Darkness Rolled Over Her. And the idea is you get together the first week just to sort of lay out what all's going to happen. And then between weeks 1 and 2, everyone reads the book. And this is best a group of like 3 to 5, small group. And so then week 2, you come back, you talk about the story a little bit. The discussion guide walks you through it. You don't have to know how to teach or lead a group or anything. If you can read English, if one person in the group can read English, you're good to go. Weeks 3, 4, and 5, you talk about some of the characters. So week 3, you talk about Roy, and you talk about people that have encouraged you in your life. And week 4, you talk about Gwen and her story. And people have an opportunity, if they want, not obligated to, but they have an opportunity to share some of their story with these friends that hopefully they feel safe with. And then week 5, you talk about Sam, and you talk about, hey, are there people in my life that I can encourage? And then the idea is that you would then take the short story to maybe a couple of those people and sort of do the group again with them. And so that's sort of my hope, is that these little groups maybe would start sort of multiplying. But 5 coffees and a book, it's like a little mini book club, and the discussion guide is available totally for free, and I've made the ebook totally available for free as well. So you can go to 5coffeesandabook.com, and that'll take you directly to the page where you can see the free ebook and the free PDF discussion guide. If you would like to pay for the ebook, I will take your money, but you don't have to. It's available for free. And if you prefer the paperback is for sale as well. The paperback is available, I think, only on Amazon right now, but I'm working on getting some of that over to my side also. But my website is parabolas.com. You can go in there. You can see some other short films. You can see my other books. I've got ebooks, audiobooks, links to the paperbacks. And I've got my blog is on there, some podcast things that I've done, all my freelance stuff. Everything's on parabolas.com. But 5coffeesandabook.com will take you right to the story, right to the free stuff, and then you can explore the rest of the site from there.
Perfect. I'll put that link in the show notes. And again, Paul, best wishes to you. Thanks for such a great conversation, and I know we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye.